Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast channel. My name is Jed. We looked at last time the difference between belief and understanding in terms of what it can get you. If belief functions in opposition to understanding in the use of our mind and blocks our development and learning because it's stagnant, beliefs don't change. You can't judge with belief, so you can't judge what's lacking or what can be improved on, so you can't make the improvements within the system. You can't, of course, go beyond the authority figures. That's sacrilege, and so on and so on. But what do believers get as a result of sacrificing their mind and, what turns out to be our purpose, the development of understanding? Now, to answer that question, we discovered another interesting insight. That is, belief itself functions through interpretation. So instead of relating to to reality, to the evidence or experiences that exist, and instead of using reason to explore that evidence and experience, belief instead projects what we already expect to see. So that's interpretation. Belief functions through interpretation. Ever wondered why a racist or a sexist or a MAGA or a Nazi never changes his mind? Ever wonder how these MAGA people can have comedian after comedian ask them the same stock questions in a way that embarrasses themselves, but they never change their mind? Ever noticed how a debate pervert...
I'm a debate pervert.
And I have an axiomatic
of the Bible.
Exactly. Ever noticed or wondered how a debate person can be bombarded with evidence and reason and will never ever change their mind? Because evidence and reason are the enemies of belief, as viewed by belief, because belief is to do with an in-group and an authority figure within that group, and functions in opposition to anything that threatens it, including one's own mind, causing that internal conflict. So instead of relating to reason and evidence, what we've been learning is that there are certain techniques that believers use to subvert reason and evidence: goal posting, changing the evidence, trying to distract or start fights or attack people's character or logic itself to undermine reason, ultimately leading to conflict, because one way of becoming irrational is to start fights instead. So what are believers relating to? What they are already carrying in their mind. So we carry our problems with us in belief. So we project what isn't there and we leave out what is. Interpretation. So what's curious about that is, while that applies to belief itself as a cognitive function, as a low cognitive function that human beings develop from a young age, and our purpose is to learn about so we can move out of belief into that which is higher and more general, the rational. So that's how belief functions as a cognitive function, as a stage of our development. It also is how a believer functions, someone with it. So in our reading, we saw Harry, someone who is a believer, try to, struggle to make sense with what was happening as he is learning how to think for the first time and learning what learning is, learning how to understand. His reaction was, "You are just lying. You are just trying to start fights." He said, "You know what you are doing? You are just like someone trying to punish a dog for doing something bad." Now, of course, punishment isn't the realm of understanding. Punishment is stupidity. Believers do punishment because if you have a problem, you need understanding to understand the cause of the problem, and number one, number two, to understand how to fix the problem or do the thing better. There's always two parts. For understanding, there's addressing the cause of the problem and understanding the actual good thing you should be doing. Always two. Can't do one without the other. For example, defeating the Nazis. You could say, well, we did something better. We stopped them with the Ally movement in World War II. But did we address the problem? No. So what happened as a result? We are still suffering under Nazi fascism, capitalism, and imperialism. So in other words, the Nazi problem still exists because we failed to address the cause. And as we progress as a human society, we have to understand what we need for our excellence. How do we meet all human needs equally? Universal principles applied universally to universally benefit. So how do we do that? How do we manage the resources and distribute them equally among all people so all of our basic human needs are met, freeing us from war and enslavement and poverty, unnecessary, which are all unnecessary and just expressions of belief, because believers seek to harm those not in their belief group, as a cognitive function and as how people function themselves and as how systems function. So how do we do that? That's the first step. Create a vision of a rational world. But of course that will never happen because unless we at the same time address the causes of the problems in the first place, all of those causes will manifest as we decide to feed everyone. All of the sadists who enjoy watching children starve to death because it makes them feel big and strong will come out of the woodwork and say no food for children. All of the current billionaires who could quite easily solve all hunger but refuse to, they will voice themselves and say, no, I believe some people should starve. We have to address that. We have to understand why. Okay, let's understand what led you to this inhumane belief that underlies the religious, the conservative, and the capitalist Epstein class. To help them individually and to address the causes or conditions that give rise to these causes, these false beliefs that seek to hurt people, preventing oneness or unity, preventing goodness or benefit, and preventing truth or objecting to reality. So these are the three key terms that we can use to understand the paradigm: intelligence, oneness, goodness, and truth. And of course, its cause, the self that we're after at the end of all of this, or that for the sake of which we go through this struggle and curiosity and wonder and perplexity to master our understanding, the Logos, through the art of the dialectic in our return to the self, which can be called the one self, the true self, and the good self. So we have to do both. We have to purify the sickness and perfect the excellence. So, in one sentence, you could say the meaning of life individually and collectively as a human species and for all intelligent life is to purify the pathologos, the root cause of belief, or the root class of fundamental belief, sick belief about self and reality, that oneness, goodness, and truth is reality or mind, one, good, and true self. So the name for a fundamental false belief about those two things, which is causal of all problems, pathologos. So to purify the pathologos and to perfect the self-logos. So, meaning of life can fit on a bumper sticker. Tell your friends. Put it on a fridge magnet. Make some throw pillows on Etsy and sell them as merch and give me 10% on the back end.
If you don't know, now you know.
So now you know. So, the problem with sound drops is sometimes they can distract me. So, yes, so belief functions through interpretation. And we have to address those beliefs, address the cause of problems, while also addressing our excellence. Belief functions through interpretation to project what's there. So we asked, hang on a second, what do believers get? This fervent and savage loyalty to a belief identity, a belief clan identity, that's fundamentally opposed to everything all people want, individually and collectively. Why? What's the pros if there are so many cons? Well, this is the idea, projection. So just as belief functions through projection or interpretation, so too do individuals who are at that cognitive stage. They project their own issues onto the world. So we've been learning that by looking at how Harry is functioning in the conversation. When Joseph, as someone with understanding, is helping a believer who can't help, you can't believe your way into fixing a broken engine, you can't believe your way into flying a plane. Belief never, ever, 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 ever helps. Doesn't help people. Belief doesn't help. Can't help. You can't thoughts and prayers your way to stopping school shootings in America. But all the believers will say thoughts and prayers. You can't hope and change your way to solving the social problems. But a politician will say hope and change. Belief doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything good. That can be uncomfortable to recognize, but that's why it takes courage as part of our human development of growth. So, when someone is doing something good, like a philosopher, like an understander, philodianoia, lover of understanding, like Joseph, a believer will project their own worldview and say, you're just trying to trick me, because that's what I do. That's all I know. So if you have any familiarity with right-wing politics, every accusation is a confession. All of these fascists saying, oh, the Democrats stole the election. The Democrats want to take away all of your money. The Democrats want to scam you. They are doing themselves. It's all projection. Same thing for the religious officials. Oh, all of you non-Christians think gay thoughts. And then how many scandals to do with all these sorts of homosexuality and sexual exploitation within the church. Endless. It's all projection. And we also saw this when Harry projected his belief-based not understanding, how he made sense of what Joseph is doing. He says, you are just trying to punish me, and that was the point of that first part. Belief can only punish to solve problems. Understanding is to address the cause and address the excellence, to address the cause of the problem and correct it. You need those two things. Belief can't do that. Belief can only inflict suffering. You can't believe your way into flying the plane, but you can believe your way into crashing the plane. So whenever a right-winger or a conservative or a belief-based person, because conservative means pathologos party, that's what it is. It's not a political party. It's a group defined by the pathologos, seeking to play out their ignorance collectively as a kind of, well, this is what we're finding out, why they're doing it. You can't believe your way into flying a plane, but you can believe your way into crashing a plane. You can't believe your way into helping an economy, but you can believe your way into destroying it. You can't believe your way into helping people, but you can believe your way into genocide and Armageddon, which is what we're currently facing as a species at the time of recording. So he thinks that you are punishing me. You're using your intelligence to hurt me. That's what believers do. Projection. And he said, you know why you're doing it? I'll tell you why you're doing it. Because you have sadistic fun. And in doing that sadistic fun, you feel smug and superior. That's the game. So, well, there's a difficulty that arises, for believers. That is, if you lack the understanding to fly the plane and all you can do is crash the plane, what do you take as knowing? If you understand how to fix a computer, you can take as what it means to be a knower. Fixing a computer. Having an understanding of the ideal. Having a knowing of the ideal of what a fixed computer looks like. So believers take as a surrogate what they can do as the mark of knowing, which is also an imitation of their earliest teachers. Just as their parents or preachers or ministers or rabbis or imams inflicted suffering and felt smug and superior in their ability to cause harm, the entire nature of the Epstein class bullshit, so too, until they reflect on their earliest teachers through understanding, through the dialectic, through midwifery, they are stuck in a cycle of ignorance and sadism. So, why sadism? Because they take what they can do, the infliction of suffering, which belief can allow you to do, as what it means to be knowing. And as we seek knowing of what? Oh, reality and self. Those two levels of enlightenment, to see reality as it is without interpretation, and to reflect and through the development of understanding in the dialectic move through that to know its cause, the self. So we do seek knowing, but of course all of that's blocked from a believer. So while we seek knowing, they take as a surrogate that infliction of harm, so they desire that cruelty, punishment, sadism. Sadism. That's why when you ever hear anything about what the billionaires or the conservatives or the religious authorities or the capitalists are doing, it's always stomach-churning, horrific, disgusting, worst kind of human behavior ever. Sadism. So, at the root cause of all fundamental disgusting human behavior, belief. Interesting? Interesting that the human purpose is to move from belief to understanding. Interesting that all human problems come down to belief. What does that mean? That means all human problems is simply a lack of acknowledgement of our human purpose and functioning, and a lack of doing it. If we don't acknowledge it, we will allow balloons. Belief to rule in politics or religion or capitalism, which we currently do, causing all the horror we see and the injustice we see. And if we don't do it ourselves, we ourselves will be bound by our false beliefs, stuck in fate. The train tracks of life where you can predict exactly how your life will turn out, because all you'll be doing is seeking an opportunity to play out that sadistic cruelty that was done to you, modeled to you. Seek to play it out with impunity. So those are the two things that Harry projected onto Joseph. You are just trying, or three things. You're trying to function through punishment. No, we are functioning through reasoned, step-by-step, guided, reasoned reflection in a friendly way that bestows benefit and care. Providence, that's the dialectic. He mistook the dialectic and providence for punishment. He mistook the motivation, justice, to do our intended function, to master the art, to bestow goodness to ourselves and others, for sadism. and he mistook the state of mind, smug and openness and curiosity for understanding, with the belief, the desired state of mind for believers, smugness and superiority. So there's a kind of microcosm, macrocosm. Just as belief functions through interpretation, projection, so too believers as individuals function that way. Just as belief keeps us trapped within a cycle of injustice, so too believers are motivated by sadism and smugness. So, ever talk to a believer? Okay, there's two ways of talking to a believer. When they are in a state of openness and curiosity, that's what it means to be a good person. Philosophical ignorance, when you're curious and open, and you want to learn that which you don't know. Elia is demonstrating that in the book. The second way is people who are believers and pretend to know shit. Ever talk to a racist? Ever talk to a smug religious knower? Ever talk to a right-winger or a conservative? Is it disgusting? Does it make your stomach churn? How stupid they are, how cruel they are, and how smug they are in their cruelty. Human beings are the worst. No other animals treats each other, themselves, their species, and the planet that we need to live on in this way. No other species we know about does this. No other animals. Belief causes the worst kind of characteristics of intelligence that we've seen in the cosmos. And by definition. Because if it by definition opposes goodness, truth, and unity or oneness, it opposes the nature of life, the meaning of life, and how to live a good life. It opposes goodness or benefit. It opposes truth or reality. It's opposed to the reality that we share. You are in conflict with the world that you are living in. And of course, it opposes harmony, unity. So all of these ideas can be put under these three big categories: goodness, benefit, excellence, under the category of truth, reality, the world we live in, the universe, the cosmos, self, and of course, one or oneness, unity, harmony, togetherness, empathy. So, to oppose the good, the true, and the one is the definition of the worst thing you can do. It's the functioning of the cognitive function called belief, something we're here to address as humans. And that's the macrocosm as a cognitive function, and in the microcosm we see it being played out within believers. And also there's another microcosm, macrocosm, in that politics, religion, capitalism. So any collective group built on belief will only ever be ruled by violence under the guise of punishment. Punishment is the lie that somehow inflicting violence will help, which is it's the abandonment of the rational and the intelligible. So it's the abandonment of all that is good. Punishment, war, violence, all that stuff. Cages for humans. The prison industrial system, the military industrial system, the capitalist enslavement industrial system, all those systems. So they only ever do that, and they only are ever driven by sadism. When you find out what happens on Epstein Island, it only ever makes you feel sick. You wish you never have heard about it, because it's the most disgusting, sadistic stuff that billionaires, religious officials, and conservatives get up to. Anyone who is a belief-based authority that can play out their beliefs with impunity instead of doing their intended human function to address the cause of all human problems and injustice and address their beliefs through the development of understanding. and they are driven by a feeling of, or that sadism, to feel smug and superior. So punishment, sadism, smugness, sadistic fun, and smugness and superiority. All of these fake hierarchies where men are superior to... By the way, this is how they get the believers to willingly give up their wealth, their resources, their human dignity, their rights. Hey, says the MAGA, Trump's not Christian at all, has contempt for religion. But he says, hey, I'll pretend that the Christians are superior to all other religions if you become supporters of my tyranny. Hey, we are going to completely take away everything that you have and anything that's good in your life, but we'll say that you are better than others because you're white. Superiority, smugness and superiority. So that's the sales pitch. We will allow you to be violent. We will allow you to be sadistic, and we will allow you to feel smug in your superiority if only you sacrifice your mind, your justice, your dignity, the meaning of life, and you act in the most disgusting ways, supporting the most disgusting leaders possible. So that's what we found out about what is the what's offered to believers. Even the dumbest can be violent under punishment. Even the dumbest can be sadistic instead of actually knowing, actually have the joy that comes with helping people. They can have sadistic fun in destroying good things, and even the dumbest can feel smug and superior because they happen to be born male or white or any of that shit. So that's the sales pitch. That's how we can understand the root cause of all human problems within society, within our species, within the cognitive function, and within individuals. One word: belief. We can understand why it is. Punishment, sadism, and smug superiority. That's the appeal. And we can understand why it's therefore the meaning of life for all intelligent beings to move from one to the other, if you have evolved to the capacity to have belief. And so we can understand what must be therefore the human purpose. If we are to survive, we have to learn how to make that transition from belief to understanding, and we have to do those two things. We have to address the cause of problems, because they will all come back. We have to expect the counterattack from our beliefs as we pursue our excellence. So we are doing that ourselves as individual souls as we read on this channel. We are developing excellence because our goal is to master a text. It's an intelligible goal because it's a text that reflects intelligibility. We don't have to project or save it. That's why we read the kinds of books we do on this channel and not other ones. So in seeking excellence of an intelligible goal, we will surface our own belief-based counterattacks, giving us what we need to solve our problems. Or, if we fail to address those belief-based counterattacks, we will suffer the tragic implications of them. There's no other choice. There's no middle ground between addressing your problems or being a slave to the problems. You're either following the pathologos or the logos. There's no middle ground. So we're practicing what we are supposed to be doing as human beings on this channel by learning to read the way that we do. So, isn't that interesting? And while this is happening, while Harry is demonstrating belief and its negative functioning, Joseph is demonstrating the functioning of understanding. Aaliyah is demonstrating someone moving from one to the other. She is asking, how do I understand? How do I learn? She's learning that the things that we are told have to be objects of belief, religion, don't. If we ever take something as an object of belief, we will suffer the injustice as a result. For example, she's learning how to approach the Garden of Eden story in a new way through understanding. She's learning how to approach the resurrection story. So in doing so, she can come to herself not just to believe the lies, she can come to A, recognize we have been lied to about the Garden of Eden story, and B, see the significance of those lies, and C, learn how to think and understand for herself and see what was really in that story. And hopefully D, reflect on the whole process to wonder about belief versus understanding itself. The same thing for the resurrection story. Didn't happen. Wasn't in the book. It's made up. Don't believe me, understand it. Figure out what makes it understanding. How do we apply our reasoning to the available evidence to come to a conclusion to see that, hang on a second, if this was added 50 to 70 years later, because the end of the world didn't happen, and it was an outlandish false belief, a dead body somehow zombied back to life after 3 days, why would there be this crazy belief needed after the former belief proves that the beliefs are false? What does it mean about our culture that says stuff like Jesus is risen? Not there, just a lie. How do we understand that for ourselves? Boltman, and we've been given some homework in reading Boltman and Maccabee to look at not just the beginning and the end, but the middle part. Boltman takes all of the basic things that we take, having believed someone else in a funny hat or in a robe, or just a cool pastor with a skateboard saying, hey, Jesus is cool, kids. Jesus wants you to do a nollie flip. Take all of those things that we take from belief and reflect on them with understanding to see whether or not it's actually in the Bible. Jesus is the only Son of God. He's going to come back. You have to, he forgives your sins, all of this stuff. You have to repent, all that crap, all the basic tenets of Christianity. How do we understand whether or not they're in the text? And having addressed the belief tradition, what's left? Oh, it seems like Jesus, even though modern Christians don't listen to anything Jesus actually said, they listen to Paul, Jesus himself had a peak experience of divine luminosity. So too did these monks that Mircea Eliade reports meditating on Mount Antheos that you can find for yourself. So too did Sai Baba in our lifetime. Have this peak experience that manifested in physical illumination. So you can go on to figure out, hang on a second, or discover that, hang on a second, people all over the place for all time have been having these peak experience that we call ousia. Plato to Tibetan philosophy, to Korean Buddhism, to Hinduism, to Chinese philosophy, to shamanism, just to mention a few. So Elia is now, having addressed the beliefs that prevented her development of spirituality through understanding, she is now, well, free or open to learning about these states of being. So there's our purification and perfection. So she's at a stage of development called being stung, or aporia. Philosophical ignorance, to realize you don't know, but you're free from beliefs to actually discover. So we've got Elia demonstrating that in the book. And Elia asks, well, how do I understand these things? Compare and contrast. Is the answer given? Compare and contrast all of these accounts and see what you come up with. create a theory, test it. As you learn more, you can improve your theory. That's called learning. Well, no, actually, and then we've got a quote from the book, learning is what you get after the critical thinking is over. But to reach that, you have to pass through perplexity and doubt. That's inevitable if understanding is to be reached. So we have to learn to be okay with not knowing. Learn to be okay with being curious. That's called play. When you play a game, you don't know how it's going to end up. You don't know where the people are hiding in hide and seek. You don't know how the score is going to end at the end of the game. That's what makes it fun. You pass through that puzzlement and openness and even doubt if you want to develop and learn. That's play. Believers are taught to fear or learn to fear it. Because you know what happens if you don't know something? That's an excuse for believers who are ruled by sadistic fun and cruelty and savagery to inflict their violence. Because if you don't know something, you're wrong, and if you're wrong, you deserve punishment. So we have to undo the learning by the root cause of the worst kind of sickness that intelligent beings can have: belief. If we want to be free to go through the process of learning and understanding. So you can't do one without the other. You can't perfect excellence without purifying the cause of problems. That's where we are in the text. Woof! That was a big summary. But we are learning some important stuff. So, I'm going to turn on my fan and take off my jumper, and then we will jump in. All right, let's catch up to where we are. The fan is cold. Oh, because I took my jumper off at the same time.
Okay.
So here we are with Aaliyah talking to Joseph. Saying, hey, by the way, we won't go through all of the specifics, but this is how you can compare what was said about Paul, whether or not he had a light experience or not, because that seems to be something that Luke says, not Paul. But now that we've addressed the key specifics, the Adam and Eve story at the beginning, the resurrection story at the end, the fundamental tenets of Christianity with Bultmann, where Paul, and if none of that's in the Gospels, where Paul might have pulled this stuff out of, where did if he pulled all this stuff that we take to be modern Christianity out of his ass, where did he get inspired? What filled his ass with this shit? That's Maccoby. Maccoby's book is called, of course, none of this will have any meaning to your soul unless you actually open the book, find the book, open it up and read it yourself. Otherwise, it won't last. It won't last because your beliefs, as we've been describing, if beliefs are the cause of the absolute worst things that any intelligent being can do, causing human beings to be absolutely fucking terrible in a way that no other animal species are, there has to be some power behind it. So whether you like it or not, you're influenced by Christianity because that's the world that we live in. And unless you find Maccoby's book, The Myth Maker, it won't stick. So while Bultmann addresses the specifics, Maccoby asked the question in The Myth Maker, where did Paul get all this crap from? So modern Christians are Paulines. Paul, who rejected everything Jesus said and just interpreted his own personal beliefs. He was a sadistic murderer, by the way. So Jesus being the only begotten Son of God, the atonement for man's sins, who will Jesus returning on the clouds of heaven, redeeming the believers, deprive the demonic forces of the power, all of these stiffs, all of the stuff that we take to be Christianity. That's Boltman and Maccabee. And then free from the beginning, the end, and the middle of Christianity. I think there's another author who they look comparative religion. There was another one that we said, if anybody's ever taken this course and you have the handbook still, reach out. Yes, ALAND, Alan's Synopsis of the Four Gospels, and Kee's Study of the Gospels, and Perrin's Perrin's Intro. So there's 3 more to add on your reading list for comparative reflection. Now, free from beliefs, they get into what actually spirituality is about, not belief, but direct experience and the associated development of that experience, and the use of understanding to purify your false beliefs that you can now compare against that peak experience, and using your understanding to reflect on that peak experience and address its cause to move beyond mind to reach the self. Even in Christianity, they recognize that experience, and they even use the same Greek word, ousia, only they belief has to undermine your own direct participation, so they call it parousia or parousia, beside the divine, whereas the real well, you can compare that word with the Greek ousia, which means mind's capacity to turn around and know itself. So that's a fantastic insight into belief and Christianity in particular. Of course, any belief system, you'll be able to do something similar or comparable. And a fantastic insight into understanding, what's involved in understanding. And whenever we have insight or understanding, we can expect the counter-attack from belief. So Harry jumps in and says, "You gotta be kidding. You are stupid." And then he demonstrates the nature of the counterattacks. Counterattacks are not good, they are not true, and they are not harmonizing. So they're not good, true, or one. And if they're not true, then they're not based on reality. So the counterattacks are not literal. Don't take your negative self-talk, anything that counterattacks against your own learning to read, reflecting in this way, reading these books, anything that undermines your ability to do so that you experience in your own mind, do not take it literally. It's projection. It's interpretation. Take it instead as a message. If it's projection, there has to be some content. So the same way we are learning to read the Bible and read this book and read our dreams, as it is, so too can you read your thoughts. Just because Paul says some horse shit doesn't make it true. You have to learn to read it properly. How much of this is rational? How much of this is him trying to project his own personal beliefs? Because that's what humans do. Giving us that graph. This one here. Everyone, see people, the people graph. How far up in their vision and understanding and mastery of the Logos have they reached? And how much have they gained an understanding, freedom from, and dissolution of their pathologos beliefs? So those 2 things we mentioned we're here to do necessarily. You can rank people based on their development of both. So you might have a Paul all the way down here, or a Hitler or a Trump. You have probably Socrates up here, and then we have all the people in between. Similarly, there are some thoughts that are reflecting the logos in your head, and some thoughts reflecting your pathologos. Just because Paul says it doesn't make it true. Just because it's a thought that comes up in your mind doesn't make it true. Learn to read them. What are they saying? Test them. It might say that you suck and you can't do this. Is that true? No? Oh, what is it telling you then? Who does it sound like? What state of mind were you in? What words were used? Look for a pattern. Compare and contrast them. Because you need to trace them back to the first time you learnt this, because it must have had a cause. Just as with the logos, we're seeking the cause of all rationality, the self, and all reality, the self of the self logos. So too, we have to seek the origination of the pathologos, the origin scene. So going to the self logos, philosophy addressing the pathologos, philosophical midwifery. So notice the questions. If we're not taking those thoughts literally, how do we approach them? Analogically.
I have a sickness for the thickness.
Yes.
I guess, but UFOs might be Jesus.
No, UFO, that's the point. UFOs are not Jesus.
They're secretly turned on by it.
Emma.
Goon, 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 goon.
Don't be a gooner,
Goon,
Emma.
goon, 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 goon.
Right. Analogically, what are the key words? What's the drama that you can approach as an allegory? What are the states of mind what's it like? Simile. Are there any objects? Are there any characters that it sounds like? Who might they represent? Metaphor. And of course, some of them might be literal in that the person it reminds you of might be the earliest teachers. So we trace it back, we see it, how it manifests in our present, we trace its history back through our past to find the origin scene. It's how we address human problems as they manifest in the individual. Hooray! So this we'll start with Harry's counterattack because, but now this time we'll read it while keeping in mind it's all projections. He's telling on himself, not just himself. He's telling on how belief functions and how individual believers functions. So all of this stuff about allegory we can apply, that we are learning about in the text, we can apply to the text. Harry is a personification of the principle of what? Belief? If so, then this book is an allegory. If the book is teaching us what allegory is, while providing an example for us to test it out and learn it ourselves, it is both defining allegory and demonstrating it. And if allegory is something you have to participate in, then it is a masterful work. Masterful because it's something that can benefit your soul. And if it's not, well, then we could write a letter to the author and say, hey, you should have made allegory in the book as well. So take it as a theory and see if it works. If so, what principle of reality does Harry represent? Is it belief? And if we know that belief functions through projection or interpretation, is that what he's doing here? So with this idea in mind, let's read it again and wonder, hey, is he telling us what belief is? How all believers function? And is he telling on himself? If so, and we want to be good people, we don't want to punish him for being a dick. We want to help him. What might we do? If we can see what he doesn't see because he's blinded by belief and functioning through interpretation, so he can't see reality or what's true, what might we do with our seeing? Might we do things that might encourage him to reflect? Ask him questions about what he's saying? Should he be in an open and receptive state? If he's stuck in debate, it might be difficult. In other words, what I'm asking is, how might you approach that as a dialectician? So, another microcosm or macrocosm. Belief, the cause of the worst sadism and injustice, at every scale, from something small by some regular non-fundamentalist religious person turning to their daughter and say, "You know that you're less than your brother." What? Why? Because Eve tricked Adam into eating the apple. Don't you know that? And the cause of all sin and suffering is kind of women's fault. That is injustice. Oh, but that's just normal. Doesn't matter, it's still bad. Doesn't mean we hurt those people. We create the conditions to reflect on where they learned it and help them to see why it's bad to say that women are less than men because of the Bible. And also, we don't allow any belief to rule, just as we don't allow believers to fix your engine, do medicine, build a house, teach you math. Never, ever, ever should we allow these people to rule. It should only be understanding based. Doesn't mean you hurt them, just taking the gun away from baby. Which means the dialecticians need to rule. So, the dialectic would therefore be the functioning of understanding, or good people, rational people, good, true, unified people, good, true one once again, and the functioning of what's cruel and unjust, belief, debate. Debate. Us versus them. What's debate? You come in with your own personal beliefs and opinion, and you use language to reverse engineer a support for your belief by taking any criticism as an enemy. Us versus them. Attack and win. Lie about the evidence. Lie about the reasoning. Speeches. Dialectic isn't that. It's step by step, friendly, led by the one with the expertise. Questions and answers where you have mutual agreement at every step, so you collectively move together towards a conclusion that's true and benefits and unifies. So, fantastic, because whenever you see some politicians yelling blah 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 blah, my opponent blah 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 blah, but my opponent blah blah blah, while the Epstein class is murdering children and these politicians are just fucking around with their bullshit, oh, that's just debate. Yeah, that should never be allowed. But my opponent, here, ha 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 ha. Fuck off with this debate bullshit. Children are being murdered for fun and profit. Fuck off with this debate shit. But now that we know, oh, debate's just a functioning of belief, which is the cause of all ignorance and suffering, we can see it. Oh, that's it. You're doing a debate?
Debate dweeb.
You're a debate dweeb. Stop it. Equally, we can say, oh shit, I better learn a different way of exploring ideas. That's good and together and led by someone who can lead, not by any old actor or reality TV show host or any of this fucking bullshit where believers can pretend to be experts. Billionaires, capitalists, conservatives, and clergy. I better learn how to actually explore ideas that anyone can participate in who has intelligence, language, and the capacity for self-reflection. That's it. If you're human, you qualify, provided you actually genuinely seek it. If you're a debate pervert, then you're in a problem. So, we can understand the cause of all problems, we can understand how to recognize when it's functioning, whenever there's two people debating a fucking idea, that's horseshit, but also we can see the value in what we have to do as human beings, the value in learning the dialectic. It's just that important. Which is why we can conclude it's the literal meaning of life. If it's the meaning of life, it has to be the meaning of all life. Therefore, true, universal, beneficial. So as we've been demonstrating, it's what solves problems, it's what reaches excellence. So there ticks the good category. It's true in that it's demonstratable, it's rational, you prove it for yourself. Definition and demonstration, which is, by the way, the activity of proving anything true is the dialectic. Define it true rationally, definition. Demonstrate it in evidence or experience, definition and demonstration. You might have to reason through the steps. If you don't see it yet, that's division. And as a result of reasoning through the steps or the proof, you have to somehow synthesize a key idea, synthesis, that you can take back to that original definition. That's synthesis and analysis. That's the fourth stage, conclusion. Definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. So the activity of proving anything true is the very activity that we are here to master. And it's demonstratable. You can prove this as true yourself, meaning it's super important whenever you have a spare moment to do a dialectic on the dialectic, to prove it's true that the meaning of life is the dialectic. And then, remember the dialectic has two sections? The definition, the subject to itself. Demonstration, how that subject functions to another. Division, how that other divides into its other others. Conclusion, which synthesizes from that a single other that then analyzes or takes it back to that original self or original subject. Definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. Self to self, self to others, others to others, others to self. For if the idea is, so if the dialectic is our purpose, and if it isn't, if we lived in a universe where we weren't supposed to learn the dialectic as our purpose, do both. To fully explore the idea. Make it your own. So, we can see for ourselves the significance in what we've been doing, learning how to read the dialectic, learning how to think the dialectic, learning how to explore ideas with our friends, dialectic, learning what has to be the bedrock of all good relationships, dialectic, as Joseph is demonstrating with Elia. And we can see the opposite, debate, belief, in the conflicts that arise in the relationships with Elia and Harry. And as a dialectician, we can ask the question, where did she learn that Harry is a model of beauty and goodness that made her attracted to him in the first place? She's dropped hints. That's what we do as dialecticians. We listen to the words people use. Whether they're lying to demonstrate their problems, or if they're being honest, even better, because then we can gain insight that can help in a higher way. I always hear the things Harry said at home. I didn't really believe them, but my dad said them a lot. What we're hearing from Elia. So we can understand the cause of all negative human relationships as well. Debate, belief, and where it comes from. Origin scene. And we can understand what therefore might be, and again, you won't know it until you try it, the ideal relationship, or the model for all relationships. Understanding, logos, philo-logos, the love of understanding, love and logos together, and the dialectic. Fun? Good? Worth synthesizing? Worth... Did we just define... Whoops. Did we just define the meaning of life, the nature of all goodness, in relationships, in exploring ideas, in reading a book. Both what is and how to do it badly, belief, interpretation, reading through interpretation and not reading, relationships defined by belief and not understanding, conversations defined by debate, not dialectic. Did we just give demonstrations of what we just defined? Did we just take that demonstration and apply it to relationships, reading, exploring ideas, understanding your dreams, understanding your thoughts and blocks, and distractions and tangents? Can we then synthesize from that what was the same in all of these divisions? Openness, curiosity, desire, love of logos. Analysis, does that go back, take our original definition? The dialectic plus love of logos or philodianoia as the meaning of life? Can you do the same thing create a universe if that wasn't the case? If it was just, this is the title of the book, if everything was just a matter of opinion and belief, all about perspective, what would that definition be? What would the conditions of that universe be? So there is a higher way of looking at definition. Not just defining the subject itself, but also what conditions have to exist in that universe for this thing to be, for dialectic or logos to be. It's a higher way of looking at that. So that's a little bit of something you can take with you. Are we doing it? Is that fun? Is it worth doing? Is it nice to synthesize all of these complex issues down into a single idea? What does it do to your state of mind? What does it do to your soul? Is that the oneness and unity that we're after? And as Aliyah mentioned in the text, if justice is doing your one intended function, could that be it? How neat would it be whenever some debate pervert...
I'm a debate pervert.
And I have an
Debate pervert. Debate dweeb.
Oh my fuck.
My fuck. Whenever you hear a debate pervert on the politics show, or in a Parliament House, or in a TED Talk, or in a news interview, or in a podcast, oh, are you doing debate? Oh, then you're demonstrating belief. Is it us versus them? Oh, well then it's belief. So you're exploring an idea, us versus them. The left are all doing this. Don't talk about what policies Trump is doing. What about the left? What about the bad team? What about the Muslims? What about the women's? They have OnlyFans. What about the woke? They want me to use pronouns. As soon as you frame it as an us versus them, you are in the state of mind of the very problem of fascism. That's why people say fascism and capitalism are the same. They're linked. Fascism and right wing are linked. Fascism and religion are linked, because fascism defines the functioning and way of being when you are ruled by belief. And if anyone is exploring an idea through debate, they are doing it. We don't have to watch another 20 fascists against a rational person debate, or one MAGA versus 20 rational people debate. We don't have to do that anymore. I mean, it's worth doing, of course, to see where we are at as a society, and to learn what we could do to improve that. So maybe make a new YouTube channel, not based on debate, but on dialectic. One person leading a dialectic with 20 other people on an idea. That would be the good way. And then we can look back at all of these YouTube slop debate bullshit to see how far we've come. And also to learn, because whenever anyone slips into a debate, we can learn Remember, we have to do two things: find what's good and address what's bad. You can't do one without the other. So it's worth looking at these things and sharing it for people who are yet to wake up to the dialectic. But the fact that we can understand the root cause of all human problems in its functioning via debate means we can save a lot of time. Anyway, I think that's neat.
I'm too pure.
That's not
I'm
relevant.
cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
Also not
I'm
relevant.
going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you.
Calm down.
Fuck.
So, with all that in mind, let's read that. So what are we doing? We're approaching the book allegorically. So all that we've been defining about allegory, we get to demonstrate in how we read the book. So meaning that the mind of the author is himself at this level of excellence. So in us learning to read, we are raising our mind to match the level of the author. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
That's what I said.
Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
No, I did. I didn't bull testicles, me. Bull testicles?
What is this? The damn Opie and Anthony? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, it is. It's a damn Opie and Anthony show. And don't you say otherwise.
Dead-eyed, and I don't use this kind of terminology lightly, dimwits.
Hey,
That's anti-feminist in some way.
in some way it is. All right, so let's read with that in mind. Harry. I hope there's someone out there who's more Sometimes I imagine what would happen if people listened to what we do here. How much of a better world we live in. So I hope there are people out there who are finding this fun and meaningful, and maybe talk about it, share it. Anyway, if they're more entertaining or beautiful or charming or rich or influential than me, then I don't know. Maybe we could be having a lot more fun here on Earth. But let's keep going. You know what? You've got to be kidding, says Harry. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You confuse the everyday person and attract the bright ones into your philosophy, don't you? Your philosophy, see? I'm not sure I can say what you get out of it, but I know what effect it has. All you are trying to do is wreck the lives of believers. Is that all religious people do? Is that all capitalists do? Is that all conservatives do? Literally, do they only ever wreck the lives of those they're supposed to be helping? Yes, the answer is yes. Even if it's rude to say or impolite to say. If you are finding it rude and impolite to tell the truth, you are Harry. How dare you? Now let's see what arguments you might be using to silence the truth that can benefit you. You don't really care one way or the other. You take the best and show it's not unique. You even make believe there are modern Jesus types, don't you? You know what else you do? Because we can all have those peak states and go beyond, even greater than Jesus, of course. You look for contradictions in order to get others to deny their faith. You sound like someone interested in saving the true faith. So, saving the true faith, he doesn't recognize the difference between belief and understanding, not faith. It's the opposite. But that's crap. I've heard it all before. What you really do is rub those contradictions in the nose of other people rub those contradictions into the noses of believers, like people disciplining their dogs. Punishment. They rub their noses in it, but what you are really doing is having sadistic fun and feeling smug and superior. is that a confession? Why is he making it personal? Why is he not enjoying these ideas like Aaliyah? Why is he trying to start fights? Does he find it fun? Ever notice that the fascists, the religious, the conservatives, and the capitalists, they don't care about the truth? Whenever you have some genocide, imperialist, capitalist, ethno-state supporter on some sort of interview and someone from the crowd says, hey, you're killing human beings and what you're saying is garbage, they smirk. They don't give a shit about reason because that's what belief does. It opposes reason. So this sadistic fun and smug superiority while trying to hurt people is defining in one sentence, or two sentences, the nature of belief. That's why we that's why we have, we seek good people who genuinely seek learning. Philodianoia, love of understanding. The truth is that believers have something you non-believers envy. You can't force it, it has to move you. And when it does, you get good feelings and group acceptance too. So that's the other thing they get. We talked about the justification to do violence for sadistic fun and the feeling of smug superiority, but also those we could call good feelings, and you also get group acceptance. And earlier he says you can instantly know who's against you and who's for you and who is against you. Right? Who is the sacrificial lamb? Is it a woman? Is it a child? Is it an immigrant? Oh, then we can torture them and get our sadistic fun. I'm going to join ICE. I'm going to go to Epstein Island. I'm going to become a priest. So I can psychologically or physically fuck with these children or girls or immigrants. So you know who is the sacrificial lamb, who's not in the in-group that you can direct your pathologos, ignorance, and belief-based injustice at, as the human sacrifice. Ironically, Jesus, a human sacrifice. Someone who talked about understanding, someone who talked about experiencing higher states of mind. Christians oppose the teachings of Jesus. So, you're wearing a red hat, you're on my team, you are a shape, and by the way, we've talked about shapes and colors. If understanding is the functioning of that and of intelligence, so intelligence itself as a whole, as the model is knowing, that's ousia, its activity is understanding, so too, in the realm of ignorance, personal opinions, the whole or model why is that? Oh, it's because I'm the model as a whole is belief, and its functioning is image thinking. That's why those who are trying to manipulate the people, shapes and colors. Notice how stupid it is? It's a woman shape. It's a immigrant color. That's the bad people. You can be cruel to them while we steal all your money, abuse you, steal your children, send your kids to war, destroy everything, take all your resources. That's why it's all trans stuff. Look, woman shape, but man shape. Whoa! Look, brown color. Oh, bad, not white color. That's it. That's the entirety of MAGA. Same thing for religion. Woman, bad. No speak woman in church. No lead woman in house. No rights woman to her body. Religion. Color. Oh, that's Muslim color, not white Christian. shapes and colors. The functioning of belief. That's why they only have one catchphrase, or two. Man, woman, question mark. Trans, woke, and white, black, or white, brown. Now the white black stuff they have to do kind of secretly, not anymore, because the billionaires have bought all the social media, so you can be as racist as you want on Twitter or x.com. If you wear a MAGA hat, be as racist as you want. That's the government policy now. Against the Palestinians, death penalty for Palestinians only, genocide for Palestinians, but hurting a Jewish man's feelings in Israel, death penalty. It's just that simple, it's just that stupid. You only need 4 ideas: knowing, understanding, and how they relate, beliefs and image thinking and how they relate, and you can make sense of all of the ignorance of humanity's worst. Shapes and colors of belief versus universal principles, because they're transpersonal, of the truth and reality, of the goodness that benefits, and of the oneness that unifies individually and collectively. That's the difference between understanding or wisdom and ignorance. Okay, we keep going. So, that was Harry's counterattack. Joseph replies, "Perhaps, but I don't think so. Which of these teachings attracts and magnifies neurotic tendencies, belief or understanding, that undermines the use of the mind, and which allows for personal growth as it enhances the use of understanding? You will agree, one creates divisions and dissensions, and the other assists in unifying mankind." So there we have, in one paragraph, everything we've been saying summarized. One way of being, belief, debate, attracts and magnifies human problems or neurotic tendencies, and undermines your mind, while the other one allows for personal growth because it enhances the use of understanding and also relates to unity. One unifies, one creates divisions and dissensions. Harry says, "Shut up, because how noble you make it sound with your 2 possibilities. The point is that there are plenty of stuff around to criticize. Why don't you direct it at something that serves a deep... Why direct it at something that disturbs a deep emotional need? If you can't join it, why chop it?" So this is the whole, respect my beliefs. Respect my belief to be a fascist. I don't believe in Santa Claus, but I don't go on around undermining the believers of it. So this is 2 parts to this argument. First of all, it meets an emotional need. It doesn't. It blocks your emotional needs and does harm. So that's a lie. The next part is, oh, it's harmless, like Santa Claus. It doesn't have any functioning. People don't see and think and act through their beliefs. People aren't manipulated to vote against their own interests because of beliefs. People don't abuse themselves and whoever they have power over through beliefs. And people don't march under the banner of belief to war and genocide in support of capitalism, religion, and conservatism. That never happens. It's just something fun like Santa Claus. Joseph responds, "Do you also give the same advice when they in turn become political and insist that their values become the law of the land? Do you also caution them when they become hostile to other forms of religious expression? You hide behind questions like a kid behind his mother's skirt. Why don't you just say what you think? Afraid? Aren't you and those like you afraid of being labeled the Antichrist? So again, there's always a word that makes you the devil, because belief is us versus them. The source of problems isn't belief versus understanding, it's the devil or believing the wrong belief against the forces of God, my beliefs. So whether it's MAGA calling you woke, whether it's Nazis calling you vermin, whether it's Jews calling you goyim, whether it's Christians calling you heathens, whether it's Muslims calling you infidels, there's always, whether it's Mormons calling you non-magic pants, they wear magic underpants
Goon.
because they're gooners. There's always a word that makes you, dehumanizes you, paints you in the terms of evil, so it's not, you're not ignorant, and therefore we will help you by doing a dialectic with you. We will only, you are the sacrificial lamb, where the worst of our members, there's a can beat you up. So you might have heard of this thing, like this cliche in bad boxing gyms or bad martial arts gyms. A new member might join, a new person, a newbie, curious, and what they might do is they might butter him up and say he's a fantastic boxer. But the special member of the group, the chosen one of the group, has a big fight coming up. So what they often like to do is give them a easy fights warming up to build up their confidence. So they'll say, hey, to this new kid, hey, you're new, you'll do really great with this guy. So the champion boxer can beat the shit out of them as a kind of sacrificial lamb. This used to happen a lot back in the older days, but still happens in some places. You might find yourself being invited to participate with some people in a friend group. And they might be really nice to you, but they just want you there so they can inflict their disgusting belief-based sadism and tyranny onto you as the chosen sacrificial lamb. So we're learning a lot about the absolute worst of human natures and why they exist. If I call you woke, then I'll let the MAGA kill you. And currently, the ICE people, the absolute worst members of MAGA, are given guns and they're allowed to kidnap people so long as they're brown, torture and rape them, murder them in the streets, even if they're not brown, just if they are left. And of course, that's just the American example. Same thing with Palestinians, same thing with poor people and rich people. So we're understanding why human beings are the absolute fucking worst, but also can be the absolute best. Just what line do you go down on? Belief and debate, understanding and dialectic. So, for Christians, it's Antichrist. You're the Antichrist. At the time of recording, there are some prominent right-wing figures who are calling the enemies Antichrist. And they've been doing it for years, actually, but there's been some recent stories. The right-wing fascist liars saying, could this be the Antichrist? I don't know. Maybe. What is the Antichrist? Could it be this guy? Is he the Antichrist? So, Joseph is throwing that out. As believers are encouraged to participate in reason and understanding, the last card they play is, you are the devil or the Antichrist. Therefore, I'm justified in murdering you. Because the devil or the Antichrist doesn't want good things, so it's not a matter of education. It's an excuse to play out your worst, what did he call it? Sadistic fun, punishment, smugness and superiority to get good feelings and acceptance within a group. So if you ever learn about all of the eyes wide shut political class and boys groups in skull and bones societies in Harvard and Yale that groom these people to become fascists under the banner of religion, business, and conservatism. They go through all these kinds of rituals where they encourage them to play out their worst natures, to be smug and cruel and sadistic. Belief. Because their groups are bound by belief. If they are bound by reason, they wouldn't be us versus them. We would be living in a utopia. So we have to surface all of these kinds of in-groups, secret societies that groom people in this kind of a way and address them, because it's inhumane. It's inhumane to encourage others to do it, and it's inhumane to be the ones that it's being done to. That's war, by the way. Why do we have a military-industrial complex where you can profit off of this? Why? Human sickness. Belief. So, he throws out that Antichrist word. Okay. Joseph, is that all it takes? Merely by differing from an interpretation accepted by the many, you become the Antichrist? Notice, Harry doesn't even believe what he believes in. He doesn't even understand his own beliefs. It's a group sickness based on interpretation, based on the interpretations of preachers, based on the interpretations of Paul. It's ignorance all the way down. That's the nature of human cruelty, the sacrificial lamb, the targeted victim, the human sacrifice. So merely differing from an interpretation accepted by the many, you become the Antichrist? But I will answer you, Harry, when you figure out what Christ means, then I bet you'll see something worth seeing. So, there's a puzzle for you to solve. What is meant by the word Christ? Is it Jesus' last name? Jesus Christ, like Joseph Smith? Or, he's the Mormon guy, right?
Gooner!
Gooner.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
Unbelievable.
They're all a
these
bunch
days.
of weirdos and perverts.
I didn't say that, but that's true. All a bunch of weirdos and perverts. So find out what that word means and you'll see something worth seeing. Invitation for you as well, as the listener or reader. What? Then you'll be surprised who really are the Antichrists. So we could guess. Let's say Christ is let's take for example Buddha. I don't want to ruin the puzzle for you, but Buddha isn't the guy's name. Gautama was the guy's name. Buddha is a title that means the awakened one. It's a title, or it's a title. Title? Yeah, descriptor, title. What's the word for that? There's a fancy word. Honorific. Oh yeah, honorific or title for a state of mind. Now, if belief functions in opposition to that very state of mind, which we have on the map, if this knowing, or ousia, is the wisdom state called Buddha, or maybe Christ, it's for you to figure out, that is only reached through understanding to cross that, or dialectic to reach that, or you don't need understanding for a glimpse. That can come to you in any kind of a way to begin the journey. So either a glimpse to begin the journey or a love of understanding to begin the journey. Either way, it has to be perfected through the dialectic or understanding, and any false beliefs you have to purify with the dialectic. If therefore Buddha is a state only reached through mastering the dialectic, And belief functions in opposition to logos and ousia, reason and evidence, the very principles used in the dialectic. Then to be anti-Buddha or anti-Christ is to be religious, to be a believer. Whether it's a political belief-based group based on the pathologos, conservatism, religious belief-based groups, any religion, or capitalist belief-based groups. Anyone that supports capitalism, which itself opposes reason and evidence and is always us versus them, and allows the billionaires to play out their sadistic beliefs because we do not demand understanding as a qualification for expertise. And it's, in fact, its wealth is inherited, so it's even more pathologos based because our beliefs we get from our upbringing. Therefore, who are the antichrists? Once again, I'm using Buddha as the example, but you'll have to check it out for yourself to make it your own. You'll be really surprised to find who really are the Antichrists if you find out what the word Christ means. It's not his last name. Like Buddha was not the guy's name. Wasn't Gautama Buddha as though it was his last name. Oh, that make-believe professor is nothing other than bull. And that is an insult. All you do is pile it on higher and deeper. If you want to understand, you have to see it for yourself, which is what I've been saying all day today. It just dawned on me what's wrong. When you study the Bible in college, you lose your faith because you guys learn from rationalists, not Christians. Christ. Christos. Christians.
Dead-eyed, and I don't use this kind of terminology like dimwits.
Dimwits.
How can you be this stupid? How is it legal?
Legal.
How is it legal?
Legal. So, you learn from rationalists, not Christians. And Joseph replies, hey, learning is what you get after the critical thinking is over. So critical thinking of the dialectic we're learning is what leads to learning. Well, that we are learning is what leads to learning. You can't believe your way into learning, as we've been saying. You can't believe your way into learning how to fix an engine, fly a plane, do surgery, or anything. You can't believe your way into being a leader of... Anyway, you get the idea. Oh God, another critical thinking course! Well, if you want to learn, you first have to see the issue, and then squeeze the answers out of the text. But it is not easy because you have to pass through perplexity and doubt. That's inevitable if understanding is to be reached. That's why we read these books. That's why we read in this way, with the highlighting and the putting it on the board and the making it into maps and charts and images. We're squeezing it out of the text. Look how smart we are. We're so smart. The more the colors and the pictures, the more the smart we are. We are so smart.
It's not being crazy. It's called reaching a higher sense of being.
That's right, a higher sense of being.
Do a poggers.
Emma.
Spit on me.
Emma! No, Emma.
Absolutely gooped.
Goon, 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 goon. Gooner!
Emma, you gooner. Okay. So, critical thinking leads to learning. You have to see the issue. So that's why we, one of the reasons we use metaphors is to understand the topic, because we are addressing our own soul, our own development. However long we have left, maybe no one will listen to us or what we do, or the kinds of people who do the stuff that we do here. And the world will end tomorrow because of us failing to do our purpose. Our species will go extinct. Because if we can see the source of all problems as belief, and our purpose is to move from belief to understanding, we can see why it's the cause of our problem, to wake us up, to do our job. You can't stop fascism unless you address its cause, belief. And maybe it takes a Trump or several genocides or capitalism for people to wake up and say, well, I'm willing to sacrifice my dear religious beliefs that I really like and grew up with for understanding and rationality. Because these people I trusted are liars and scammers. Now, it's easy to see with every other religion. Christians are quite happy to murder the Muslims. Jews are quite happy to murder the Palestinians. But we have to apply that principle universally. That's understanding. So, can be difficult because a lot of people are like Harry. It's a continuum, of course. That's why we have the graph. So we have this graph representing where someone is at. So we can say the two metrics are where are you at and where are you stuck. You could also do another kind of continuum here. Going from people loyal to beliefs, leading to a love of understanding. And you could do stages along this. So while there are Harrys in the world, there are also Aaliyahs in the world, which makes it bearable. More people who are lovers of understanding, and I would guess that anyone watching this channel is up on this end here. Behind that, we can recognize that the force or the root cause behind a loyalty to beliefs is called the pathologos. The name for the most fundamental false belief, unsuspected false belief about self and reality. And the self-logos is what is behind understanding. And in terms of, so this would be cause. We would have here kinds of people on this continuum here. And of course, we can have functioning, going from debate, perverts.
Let's be honest, perverts.
To dialectic. People who are learning or doing their best to learn and practice exploring ideas through the dialectic. Which would represent the movement from human sickness color. This one. Human sickness to this one. Oh, I've already used that one lots. This one. Philodianoia. So this would represent this one would represent the development of excellence and mastery. From human sickness to philodianoia. So there's a single continuum to understand kinds of people, the Harrys of the world and the Elias of the world, the root cause behind human sickness, the pathologos, the root cause behind human. Well, we should. The opposite of sickness is excellence or mastery. And of course on this side it's motivated by philodianoia, and its opposite, philodoxia, love of opinions. So the nature of human sickness is a love of opinions. That's modern philosophy, by the way. Functioning through debate, caused by making you a person who is loyal to beliefs, and the root cause is pathologos. The functioning of our excellence, which we are to develop mastery of, in the subject or field of philodianoia, is the functioning of the dialectic, which is a love of understanding, philodianoia, love and logos, the ideal of the human relationships as well, and its cause is the self-logos. So there's another continuum, and the people that seem to be more open to listening to what we do here are on this end of the spectrum. So, if we want to be ruled in our soul, we need to find the aspects of ourself which are all the way at this end, all the way here. You have to recognize, oh shit, I'm going on this. To be alive in time is so we can learn. Learning, as we just wrote, as we just read, we have to squeeze it from the text. We just read the section where he said, learning is the result of critical thinking. This is critical thinking. So our development is to here. While we can acknowledge that that's why we're alive and our purpose as human beings, don't you want to be ruled by the best part of your soul? So the voices that function as the counter-attacks, don't let it rule you. If you have a stupid friend in your friend group who says stupid things, hey, we should all, I don't know, be mean to the waitress for fun while we have our dinner tonight. No, you don't just do what that guy says. You say, first of all, why? And second of all, no, you're not in charge here. That's why you're the dumb person of the group. In the same way, you want to find this aspect of yourself that loves understanding and learn to see the difference. We have two voices. Now, this isn't in the text, so I'm not going to write it on the board, but the word that Socrates uses for the voice of the Logos is the daemon. It's quieter, it's more subtle, but it's there. Not as loud. This guy is loud. This is called the kaka daemon, which is the Greek for bad voice or bad spirit. Don't let this rule. To reach the excellence of this is to be in a state called eudaimon, to be ruled entirely by the good daemon. Eudaimon, good daemon, good voice of the self. Equally so, currently our society is ruled by these. The Epstein billionaire class, because capitalism is belief-based. It opposes reason and evidence to justify why the worst people doing the worst things and will somehow help society. That's bullshit. It opposes any reason and evidence, and if you unionize, they'll kill you and all this sort of shit. It's inherited through the family, most wealth. The right wing is defined by, definition of the right wing is the Pathologos Party. Religion is defined by loyal to a saving belief. That's what the word means. So our society is sick because we have the worst aspects of humanity ruling, and to become healthy we need to seek the best aspects of society and rule them. Who are the masters of dialecticians? They should be given the rulership. The good thing about that is they will always answer questions. These guys hate answering questions. They never answer questions because they are opposed to reason and evidence. These guys can be therefore transparent. Anyone can play. If you get good, you're on the team. Get good. This would be meritocracy. The lie about capitalism, conservatism, and religion is meritocracy. It's not a meritocracy. It's the opposite. It's injustice. Anyone can develop dialectic, and so too for your soul. Find the aspect, the perhaps quieter aspect of yourself that loves understanding. Find people, reach out to people who are on this end of the spectrum. So that would be justice, to be ruled by those, as we all develop individually and collectively along this development. So this is our development. Is this way. That's why you don't have debates. If you ever had a debate with someone, they try and filibuster by trying to take over. Let me ask you this question. No, I'm going to ask you the question because you are not ruling. I ask the questions. I rule. I'm following the dialectic. When a patient's talking to the doctor, the patient is, well, let me ask you this question. Listen here. Look here. No, the patient never does that. As does the patient in the surgery, as does the passenger on the plane, and everything else. Dialectic. Whoops. And of course, you don't know this at the beginning. We have to develop along this line. Meaning, have the courage to be open and curious to doing this anyway. So, in other words, you have to go through perplexity and doubt to reach that. That's where we are in the text. Play the sound while I drink.
Jester Goon Maxed.
Oh, very handsome and or pretty.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
I have a sickness for the thickness. Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
Bull testicles, indeed.
Wrong. That's insane. Like, you need help. There's no help, actually. You need a straitjacket.
I didn't say it.
Crap. Junk. Nobody. What is this? The damn Opie and Anthony? Okay, whatever.
All right, whatever. Let's keep reading. Harry. My soundboard takes the place of chatters in chat until I get my deserved 50,000 Twitch viewers. And whoever's watching better be sending emails to John Twitch so I get them. Give me all Asmund Golds are all bots. Give me all Hassan Pikers. I don't know. Give me all of them. Send that in as an email and send it to the guy. All right. Dear Twitch, you suck. Also, give the followers to Jed so he doesn't have to talk to his crazy soundboard.
Wrong. You're so wrong.
Wrong?
But that's okay. We're all allowed to be wrong sometimes.
Well, okay. I don't think I'm wrong.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
You suck. You're ugly.
Suck.
I'm gonna get your ass.
Please don't get my ass. Harry! You know why I won't go through the effort? I won't because there's no need to. Won't go through the effort because there's no need to. Which is why I don't have all those viewers. People don't think they need to learn what we do here. Anyway. I already have an interpretation, says Harry. So it's not going to prove anything. Your conclusions won't be the only ones to draw anyway. So why don't we just skip this topic? It's only your interpretation anyway, so there we go. If everything is just a matter of interpretation, then even though we've defined the nature of human problems, the cause of all human ills, individually and collectively, and for our species, as well as our excellence, the meaning of life, our purpose, and how significant it is, this belief that we are exploring, that everything is relative to personal opinions and perspective, will block hearing that. That's how dangerous this belief is. That when truth is presented to someone who thinks there is no truth, it's just interpretation, it will be dismissed as just another interpretation. Imagine a patient going to a doctor and saying, well, that your medical expertise is just as good as my own dumb opinions. You think I've got cancer? Well, I believe I don't have cancer. So why listen to you? Why do the treatment? Why go through the process of becoming healthy? I can just believe myself well. By the way, if people do that to their kids, like Christian Scientists who don't take their children to a doctor, they go to jail because it's abuse. Why the fuck do we allow it within our society? And why do we allow it within our souls? That's the terrible nature of it's all relative. It's just your interpretation anyway, because that's all there is. If it's your interpretation, you're a president and you're just a sadistic billionaire actor, then that's just as true. Surely no harm will come from Trump. Everything is a matter of interpretation, including what I'm learning or what I'm blocking myself from learning. So that's why I'm not going to go through the effort of doing what? Critical thinking, learning how to think. And remember, it's two things we make use of: logos, which is the critical thinking, and ousia, your state of mind. So to go through the state of mind of perplexity and doubt, openness and curiosity, while learning how to think, both of which is the dialectic together. The opposite, sadistic certainty and smugness of your state of mind of belief, and the functioning of irrationality, violence, harm, us versus them, demonizing anyone not in your belief group, and finding sacrificial lambs to allow people to play out their sadism. So, that's the human condition, and the drama, and the hero's journey. I don't want to go through it. I already know. I don't want to go through learning how to critically think. To go through critical thinking, from which learning is derived, or learning happens at the end of critical thinking. And I don't want to go through perplexity and doubt. I want to be certain and cruel and smug, and have a good feeling of being in an in-group, and instantly know who's for and against me. And have group acceptance. Anything else is just your interpretation. Say, waiter, I do believe another cup of coffee is in order. I do believe I need another cup of coffee. Thanks. So here comes our... By the way, we did say... earlier in the text, we saw the conditions for... Because our hypothesis is perhaps this book can be approached analogically. So, what makes a myth that can be approached analogically? 3 elements. Players. We got players, but at least one of them has to be of divine origin. Second, there's a drama. There's definitely a drama going on here, representing the nature of the human drama collectively and within our soul as our learning process. And finally, there must be a setting or place. We're at the Greek Corner Restaurant Cafe. And you can hear the people talking in the background. There they are. And you can hear the Greek tavern restaurant music. There it is. Turn down a bit. And you can see from the front window, a lovely setting. And then we go inside, and then we sit down with our friends.
You're beautiful and everybody loves you. And
Everybody.
You have the most beautiful breasts and the juiciest ass.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very true of you to say. Very insightful of you to say. Right, Emma?
Do a poggers.
Thank you so much. Hello, welcome. So, we've got the place, or the setting where the action takes place. We've got the drama. We've got the characters, but there's one piece missing. One of the characters in an allegorical myth is of divine origin. Why is that? Because the stories that we're supposed to be telling, true theology or mythology, are to personify our development. Our development is from human sickness or ignorance, beliefs, pathologos, to our mastery of the dialectic, which gives us access to the divine. So there has to be someone representing the divine. So level of wisdom or the level of the self. Either to demonstrate the excellence that we are moving into, or as some sort of, in the hero's journey, it's called the supernatural aid. The Gandalf figure that goes to Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Excuse me. Frodo Baggins or Bilbo. Or the magic teachers who go to Harry Potter, or the Obi-Wan Kenobi who goes to Luke Skywalker at the beginning of the journey. Someone who can use their art to help someone move themselves from ignorance upwards. So have we seen that? Do we have a character representing divine origins? Is Joseph, because we can say, well, understanding is divine, but is it? Kind of is. But wouldn't we want someone representing knowing or the self? So keep that in mind, because here we have someone who's getting us some coffee. And whenever we hear coffee, we have a sip of coffee. Cheers to you for your coffee. Or maybe this text, which is teaching us what allegory is, doesn't itself demonstrate it, and then we can wonder why the author would have made a blunder like that. So, I need another coffee, please. Thanks. And the waiter, Mr. Euripides. Anyone else care for another cup? Or anything else? No, we only need coffee. Aaliyah, what are you really getting out of all of this? For me, it's getting simpler. I'm trying to sort out a lot of things and get clear about this. By the way, if hypothetically this Euripides guy here does represent a character of divine origins necessary in an allegory, what can we say about Harry, who, when asked, do you need anything else? Wisdom, enlightenment, help in the dialectic, midwifery of your problems that are blocking you from participating in this conversation, Harry? His reaction is, no, get me a coffee. What does it say about believers? Do believers follow this channel? Do believers do what we do here? Do believers listen? No, get out of here. All I need for you is for you to be my fucking slave. Get me profits. Or agree with my beliefs so I can subscribe to your podcast. Work in my factory so I can exploit you for labor. Makes you think about the functioning of beliefs and why we need to recognize this continuum of the kinds of human beings along human development. Kinds of people in their development and functioning, as well as its root cause. Do we want these guys making the coffee for these guys? Or vice versa? Or maybe even rationally distributing resources in a fair way so that everyone's free from work. That's entirely possible. We have the resources and technology to free ourselves from work completely. If only these people were in charge. So, something to wonder about. No, I just want coffee. Just look. Does anyone else care for another cup of coffee? Or anything else? What would you ask for if you could have anything from a divine being? Harry says, no, just coffee. We only need coffee. Aaliyah, what are you really getting out of this? Thanks for the follow on YouTube. Oh, thank you for the follow on YouTube. For me, it's getting simpler. I'm trying to sort out a lot of things and get clear about this. You see, I've thought I've known things when I didn't. Oh, this is a high state of being for Miss Aaliyah. Approaching her not knowing in a very different way to Harry. I've thought I've known things when I didn't, and believed I understood something I was reading when I was actually interpreting something into it that wasn't there. Oh. Actually interpreting something that wasn't there. I thought something was there that wasn't. And now I am finally beginning to enjoy something I believed I had rejected.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder? Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Enjoying it. Where's the joy and whimsy and childlike wonder, dude? Aaliyah is finding it. She believed that she had rejected it, but she's finally beginning to enjoy it. That's why they call this the noblest game. I don't care who you are, or how loyal you began to your beliefs in childhood. Be they wacky Mormon beliefs with your magic
Damn,
underpants.
you really are a gooner.
With their gooner
Some goons
nonsense.
and some gooners and some weirdos.
Racist beliefs, sexist beliefs, MAGA beliefs, religious belief, capitalist, whatever your beliefs are. I don't care where you started. You won't enjoy anything as much as you will enjoy understanding. This makes a difference. It frees you from the problems that you want to be free from. It frees you from the negative states of mind that suck. It opens yourself up to higher states of mind, higher feelings, higher functioning, and meaningful activities. I don't care where you started, this is where the fun is. The only tricky part is, at our current stage of evolution, there aren't a lot of people at this end of the spectrum. But those who do love understanding, the best of us, well, they are the rare birds that you want to spend time with. If you're lucky. Alright, speaking of which, Aaliyah. I'm finally beginning to enjoy something I believed I had rejected. Now, I'll tell you something, Harry. If this is critical thinking, I'm for learning more of it. Hooray. Good for you, Aaliyah.
I guess. UFOs might
No.
be Jesus.
No, UFOs are not Jesus. Come
That's
on.
funny.
It's not funny. It's weird. It's weird that he said that.
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
Oh my goodness. Not relevant.
Look at this broad.
Hey,
Listen and learn, morons. This is gangster.
thank you. It is gangster. And if this is critical thinking, I'm for learning more of it, and that is gangster.
Cool as a cuke.
Exactly. Harry. But why are you getting into it? I don't really care about You don't really care about being a Christian, do you? You don't care about being a Christian with your critical thinking, no! Little baby.
That's anti-feminist and
No.
they're completely lying to you. They're completely lying.
Please end kink shaming on your show.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to.
Okay. Anyway, didn't find a drop that fit, but let's keep going. When I rejected it, I didn't have good reasons, so I just ignored it. Now I understand it in a new way without rejecting it. Now this is important. People might say, well, I'm not religious. Why should I care? You haven't. This is the thing what we said at the start of the episode. Well, all the way through the episode, you can't just do the good thing. You have to address the source of the problems. We can't just defeat the Nazis. We have to address the source of Nazism. Duty above all things. Duty to authority, the German way, opposed to reason and understanding. We have to address the cause. So if you haven't understood the nature of religion, the religion that you grew up with in your family, for lots of people it's Christianity, that's not the same as purifying yourself from it. You're just ignoring its presence. What difference would it make to go through all of the activities that have been suggested and understand how and why they function as they do? What difference would that make to you? To your functioning? Whenever you have difficulties and you feel those feelings, will you be able to answer them? answer your friends, answer your own inner kaka daemon, if you understand it. Now, what's interesting is she's saying that she's understanding it without rejecting it. What does that mean? She might be rejecting Paul. But if Jesus talks about states of mind through understanding and using an analogy, if you're a thinking Christian, are you really not a religious person at all, but a philosopher or a philodianoia? I wonder what she means by that. Harry. That's crazy! You're crazy!
Fuck.
You mean you want to interpret it so you don't have to believe it? Nope. The opposite. See? Believers reframe within the context of the world that they are familiar with. All he knows is interpretation, so he takes... She says, now I can understand it in a new way, and he means, you mean you want to interpret it. Ever tried talking to a belief-based person? They tell you what you think. You think this. You want to do this. Doesn't matter what you say, because that's the world they know. They will reframe it within their belief system, which is important for us as good people to understand, because our purpose would be, or for ourselves, to not reframe it in terms of our own individual beliefs and problems and worldview, but be open and curious and go through the doubt and perplexity to reach a new state of being that's higher. And ideally, those who are genuine, we want to facilitate that as well through the dialectic. Ideally, through dream analysis. You just want to interpret it, says Harry. Or, says Joseph, maybe she can read it to get out of interpreting it.
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
Also a good point. And isn't this whole business of interpreting just another way of saying everything is relative to the interpreter? So we've come full circle. We've started with a specific belief. It's all relative. And we said it's important because it's very common in our... What the hell happened there? In the contents page. Okay, it's important for us to see the contents page. Maybe we're getting to the end of part 2 or part 3. And we've got a whole nother section on analogy at the end, so that's exciting. Let's go back to where we were. So, we've started with a specific belief that everything is relative to personal opinion or perspective. We talked about the importance of it. It's perhaps the most common, perhaps the most dangerous, or one of the most dangerous, because it opposes what we are supposed to do. Understanding, dialectic, everything on the right side of the chart here. Philodianoia, excellence and mastery. That mastery needs to be done a bit better than that. A bit messy. So the most dangerous, definitely very common. Move over here. Mastery. That's wrong. Yeah, it's fine. In exploring that specific belief, we had to demonstrate understanding through the dialectic. So we saw how a believer would function in Harry to oppose the dialectic and learning. So we learnt about how the debate or the belief-based person functions, to learn how belief functions through interpretation. So in exploring a specific belief that was relevant, we learned about belief, that belief functions through interpretation. And then here we have, hang on a second, isn't this whole business of interpreting the function of belief just another way of saying everything is relative to the interpreter? That's a big one.
Bull testicle, 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 testicle.
Okay. Enough silliness. What does that mean? If saying this, it's just a matter of this business of interpreting is another way of saying everything is relative to the interpreter. In other words, if the cause of all human problems and suffering is belief on the left side of the chart, and it functions through. So we need to add more to this. Make some room. So philodoxia would be the subject, the name of the subject. Its functioning is debate or dialectic, but also interpretation. So let's squeeze from the text. What's the word that we use? Critical thinking. So critical thinking, we've been using the word reading to differentiate between interpretation, but the text, if this is critical thinking, I'm all for it. So she said critical thinking. Is the different color. So, critical thinking. If critical thinking is understanding, I'm all for it, says Aaliyah. Harry says, well, that's just your interpretation. And then Joseph comes in and says, hang on a second. By saying that's just your interpretation, isn't that just another way of saying everything is relative to the interpreter? Therefore, this specific belief turns out to be an encapsulation of the entire functioning of belief. The functioning of belief. So we got philodoxia, but let's put the English word above it. That means love of belief. And on the other side we have understanding. So those are the big ones there. Understanding or belief. So the functioning of belief is interpretation. Interpretation is another way of saying everything is relative to personal opinions or beliefs or perspectives. So what was started with just a one belief among many, we turned out at the end of all this work and reading and reflection and raising our mind to meet the level of a divine figure, maybe a dialectician. We've discovered that this commonly, hey, is everyone, I'm entitled to my own personal opinions. I'm entitled to my beliefs. Don't criticize religion or conservatism or capitalism, because they're just belief-based groups and they're entitled to, even though they're belief-based, they're just as much of an expert as an actual understander. All of this stuff is not just one position, it's literally the functioning of human sickness. It's the functioning of belief. It allows for a loyalty to beliefs. It sustains the cause of all human problems, the pathologos, and prevents the development of mastery of the self-logos. Isn't that interesting? It's a belief that represents the functioning of all belief. And we saw it in the text.
I have sickness.
We have sickness for that thing.
I love this guy.
And thank you.
Making ice cream is a good and great.
I'm getting rid of this ice cream. I'm sick of Emma telling me that making ice cream is a good and
They're
courageous
completely
thing.
lying to you. They're completely lying.
It's not a lie. It's
Like
just
literally,
weird.
suck my dick, dude.
Oh my goodness. So. Wow. Wait, not finished yet. So. It's crazy. You just mean you want to interpret it. Now let's go back to Aaliyah. Well, when I rejected it, I didn't have good reasons. So why is it important to have good reasons to reject the beliefs, not just religion is bad? Why understand why it is? I just ignored it. Now I can understand it in a new way without just rejecting it. If this is critical thinking, I'm all for more. I'm for learning more of it. That's Aaliyah. Harry comes in. You mean that's crazy? You mean you just want to interpret it so you don't have to believe it? Joseph says, hang on a second. Maybe she's reading it to get out of interpreting it. And isn't this whole business of interpreting just another way of saying everything is relative to the interpreter? The functioning of belief in human sickness. Harry says, oh, what's that? What is that? Joseph says, doesn't it look like you either have to believe an interpretation? You either, as a human being with the functioning of intelligence, you have two options to use your intelligence, mind, life energy, time in aliveness. You believe in interpretation or understand what you read. Oh, there we go. Hooray. So I was saying, we're using the word reading because we're learning how to read. We're learning how to read in a new way. At school, they say, what does this book mean to you? And you just interpret whatever the fuck. So we're learning how to read. So I've been saying interpretation is to reading. But we used interpretation is to critical thinking. And I accepted that because it was in the text. That's part of understanding. You use the evidence and reason, and if the book says that, you go with that. But now we have belief isn't to interpretation as understanding is to reading. Wow. We're learning to read. Throw a capital R on that and I'll be happy. But it's not to distinguish it from interpretive reading, like what you learned at high school. So, what do we have? We have an analogy. Remember, critical thinking is to use analogy. Belief is to take things literally and make other interpretations to save it. So therefore, every one of these terms on this map here, you can use as an analogy. Belief, whoops, the thing is frozen. So I will mog my haters. Are you appropriately framed mogged? That's so my board froze, so I gotta wait for it to load. Oh, and I got no coffee in there. Is it back? Are you frame mogged? Whoops, no, I'm outside. Is it working? Yes. So then what do we read? We read, believe, you either have to believe an interpretation or understand what you read. So we can take that sentence and put into practice critical thinking, be like Aaliyah, always be like Aaliyah, and say, therefore, belief is to interpretation that 2 dots means is to. Right, it denotes a relationship between the 2 terms. We've got 2 terms and there's a relationship between them. Interpretation. As, right, that's double dots, double dot there, as understanding, damn it, understanding is to reading properly, reading with a capital R, reading. That's an analogy. That's critical thinking. You can take this and recognize there are terms. Belief as a cognitive function is to its activity. We can even use the dialectic. The definition of the cognitive function is to its demonstration. As understanding is to its definition and its functioning. So this is the functioning of our excellence. So us learning to read is not just something fun and cool and wicked for the cool people.
Cool as a cuke.
To make you heaps smart.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Make your head large and filled with secrets. It's also the functioning of our excellence and meaning of life. Weird to just say it, hey. Hey, meaning of life. Huh? What? I thought everyone's meaning is whatever you want it to be. I thought it was all relative. No, it's all relative is interpretation. That's the functioning of our sickness. So then therefore, this as our primary term, we could do it this way. Move it up here and put the double dots here so we can extend the analogy. What does that mean? Well, let's use for example, you could have shepherd is to his sheep as a king is to his subjects. But then you can make more, because a shepherd also has a guard dog. And a king has his military. A shepherd sleeps in a tent. A king sleeps in a what? A shepherd has I don't know, what does a shepherd have? A cart. A horse-drawn cart. Whereas a king has a what? So you can extend it. So that's how you can use the structure of critical thinking, analogy, and develop further understanding and insight by extending the analogy for both. Good thing we've been doing this work. Because look, here we have belief, here we have interpretation, here we have understanding, here we have critical thinking, which we're also including now reading. Bit messy. Underneath. Make it a bit more neat. Reading. But you have all this. Philodainoia, excellence and mastery, love of understanding, self-logos. Kinds of people. So you could put Harry and Aaliyah on this list. So you could take all of these and anything else you have learnt from this text, from our series. I think we're getting close to episode 20. Considering we had almost 200 in our last book, we're flying through this one. But now you have a structure to organize all of the terms and your thinking. Harry is to Aaliyah. Christianity is to philosophy. Philodoxia is to Philodainoia. A utopian society is to a sick society. A religious official is to a dialectic functioner. Dialectician. That's for you. You've got a structure to arrange your ideas. That's development of understanding. Meaning you can have fun, you can jump back and forth, you can explain it to your friends over coffee. You can use it whenever you get stuck, whenever you get into a negative state of mind. So you can have the negative states of mind down here. You can have the peak states of mind up here. That's in the book because we were exploring those peak states of mind. And we were also having Harry demonstrate the negative ones. The ideal relationship, we're trying to ship Joseph and Aaliyah, and negative relationships, the conflicts that Harry and Aaliyah are having. You've got a structure to hang all of the terms and the ideas. And once it's your own, you can use it. But here's the thing. If these are universal principles for all intelligent beings, you can take it with you wherever. In your dreams, in your peak states of mind, in your reincarnations. Therefore, if we are using the terms and structure, the self-logos terms that are universal, and the structure of analogy, which is the structure of creation and return itself. It's how creation unfolds. If the self causes reality, reality is like self. If reality causes the physical world, it's like it. And we are becoming like reality if we raise our mind to meet the mind of the author, like the dialectician, like the self, like the dream maker. So if analogy is how creation and return unfolds, so there's our underlying structure of reality, and these terms are universal, you are learning a kind of thing that goes beyond this lifetime. If there is anything we could say that would be objectively the meaning of life, it would have to be a kind of learning and nurture that goes beyond this physical lifetime, which is short relative to eternity. So once again, meaning of life shit. Now, it's so weird to say it, considering our culture says everything is relative. There is no meaning of life. Who are you to say? Surely someone better than you would have figured it out already. No one has known what happens when you die. No one can figure out the meaning of life. No one can solve problems. Human nature is we're always at war. So let the war machine kill people for profit and fun. Human nature is stupid, so let capitalism reign. All of this shit undermines understanding the meaning of life, so it's weird to just write it on the board. But it's also true, and it's also good, and it also unifies. So it's important that we tell the truth about what's good and unifying the soul and our species. So there we go. So fill out the rest of the analogy using what you've been reading and also what we've got up here. And we can see that this is what the author is wanting us to do, because he gives us a very, very simple beginning ratio or beginning analogy. It looks like you either have to believe an interpretation or understand what you read. How does Harry respond to this fantastic call to adventure? How does Harry respond to Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, "You can be a Jedi, Luke"? "You're a wizard, Harry." Harry responds, "Hey, you're a wizard, Harry."
I'm looking for someone.
Wait,
I'm always good. Always good. That is what I stand for.
I mean, yes, but no. Hey, this one.
You're a wizard.
How does Harry respond to "You're a wizard, Harry"? Considering it's a true statement, that's also an invitation for him to participate because he can fill out that analogy and ratio himself. He can recognize the nature of the human conflict in two relationships. Belief is to interpretation as understanding is to reading. That's fantastic. You can understand it in greater depth by simply extending that analogy. And here Harry responds, all you need is belief. He says, fuck you with your understanding and your help. I'm not a wizard. I'm going to live under the staircase my whole life. I'm not a Jedi. I'm going to live on this moisture farm. I'm not going to be the Lord of the Rings. I'm going to live on this in the Shire. Fuck you, Gandalf and Hagrid and Obi-Wan Kenobi. All you need is belief. Goddamn idiot.
Die mad about it, bitch. The hell's wrong with you people? You sick freaks.
Sick freaks.
Crap. Junk.
Crap.
It's a total shit show.
Exactly. I'm drinking from the wrong mug. All you need is belief. If you believe what Christians believe is in the book, then you're a Christian. So he's paid attention to realize that Christians are not Christians. It's not in the book. They believe some other bullshit. Interpretations of interpretations. Ignorance of ignorance. But I don't care. If you believe what the other Christians believe, then you're a Christian. And that's whether or not you think it's there. This learning how to read doesn't matter. Why? Belief is to interpretation as understanding to reading. Screw reading, says Harry. Joseph. Then you are a Christian if you believe something that's not even said in the Gospels? What does that mean if you believe what isn't there? Can't you be a Christian and also be a good reader and understand what you're reading? Oh, now there's a puzzle. Is there such a thing as a rational believer, a rational Christian? There's a puzzle. I guess it depends what Jesus was actually saying if we get rid of Luke's lies, resurrection lies, the interpretations of the other stories, Boltman's Comigia, Paul's bullshit. If we actually read what Jesus was saying, is there a way? Can you be rational and a Christian? I don't know. Possibly, maybe. Harry. I imagine you can read anything you want into it or out of it, if you want. Say, waiter! Are you used to this kind of talking going on around here? So, completely dismissing what is said like a real debate pervert.
Perverts. Let's be honest, perverts. I'm a debate pervert.
And I have a
Debate dweeb.
And also his appeal to the many. Hey! Isn't this weird? This understanding? Look at this guy. Join my team and pick on the good person. Isn't that what we do as a believer? Isn't that the nature of human savagery and fascism and fuckery? Isn't that what makes human beings the worst animals? To get a group of believers to oppose what's different and challenging? Isn't that the nature of everything bad in intelligent creatures? Hey, waiter! Is this weird? Are you used to this kind of talking going on around here? Can you shut this guy up? This is why we have coffee with good people. As a philosopher, I've run into many a Harry in my day. But also within our soul, of course. We're human beings. That's the Kaka-daemon, the voice of our ignorance. So, what is the way to say? When this crowd comes in here, they do plenty of talking. They even talk through their banquets. They talk, talk, talk. Sounds like someone's not buying the ignorance. Interlude. Part 3. So that's the end of part 2. So it finishes with... How did it start, by the way? Oh, part 1 ended at the end of Aaliyah's dialogue, where Euripides saying, I hear a lot of talk around here, and you can tell that most of it is empty talk, but when there is real talk, you can spot it right away. So when you have some time, I'd like to hear what you have been discussing tonight, and my brother Dmitri would want to be counted in too. Aaliyah says, do you mean me? I'd be pleased to hear your recollection, Aaliyah. Or even one of your friends here. But maybe sometime later. In other words, someone who can recognize the value of what we're doing here and who is further along this development. He wants Aaliyah's recollection. Now, how well would you be able to recollect the sorts of things we're talking about here if you've nailed it down in this kind of analogy? Would it be easier to recollect what's been going on? So that's how part 1 ended. And now we've got part 2 ending similarly. When his crowd comes in here, they do plenty of talking. They even talk through their banquets. They talk. And earlier in the series, we've mentioned, I think that we said there's only a certain amount of things that human beings can really get up to. Enjoying good food, good lovemaking, and I missed good music, but also good conversation. And we mentioned, hey, by the way, perhaps the good way of doing those things is talking through them. Talking through your banquets, talking through your intimate relationships, love and logos. Talking through your music? Question mark. All they do, they even talk through their banquets. So we've been talking through our coffee and our fun times together. And we've been learning how to talk properly, how to explore ideas properly. So, we've got a few puzzles to take with us. You can do that analogy yourself if you want to, which is a way of bringing together all of the key ideas in the text that we've been reading. You can also find out what the word Christ means and ask the question, who is the real Antichrist? And of course, you have those other books that we've read out today that you could get into as well. Because you will only figure it out for yourself if you read it for yourself. And understanding is to reading as belief is to interpretation. Fantastic. Huge one today. Saw a lot, about a lot, because microcosm to macrocosm. As the nature of belief is to the believer, is to the society, is to the species, so too understanding is to the understander, is to the dialectician, is to the society, and is to the ultimate purpose of our human species, perhaps. And again, we'll only see it if we get through this, which involves both addressing the cause of problems, perfecting the pathologos, and purifying the self-logos, mastering the dialectic through love and logos, philo-dianoia. Fun? You having fun? Was it good to be able to unify all of the confusion and perplexity? You had to be perplexed and confused to begin with. You had to see the issue that was there. We had to learn to read along the way. So by the way, all of these aspects in learning to read, squeezing it out of the text, seeing the issue so we can have two more tools that we can apply to understanding our dreams. Can you find the issue in the dream itself? Can you make sure that you squeeze the answers from the dream? Can you find ratios and analogies represented in the dream too, to find the missing terms to solve the puzzle from the dream. So, add those to your tool belt of how you are learning to understand your dreams. Once again, there hasn't been a book written on dream analysis yet. That has been the instruction given by the author of this book and Socrates in the previous book we read. But it's by learning to understand how to do dream analysis, not dream interpretation. So dream analysis is to dream interpretation, as understanding is to belief, as reading is to interpretation. So we're learning to read our dreams. So everything we're learning about what it means to read, we can practice in our dreams. And hey, if you find someone who's got a good heart and good head, and also want to... and are also in this noblest game, it's a fun activity you can do over coffee. See if you can learn how to explore the dreams by applying the dialectic and applying those states of mind, and practicing going through that confusion and doubt and perplexity. It's a win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. Hope you're having fun. I hope your dreams are interesting. I hope you find someone on the right end of that continuum to talk to, share your insights, because that's one of the principles that we are learning. Principles of being philodianoia. Principles of being on that good side of the spectrum. Insights, spiritual experiences are objects for reflection to develop understanding, number one. Number two, expect counterattacks from belief and address them through midwifery while keeping your cool. Number three, share your ups and downs, your development, your understanding, your insights, your reading, your dream analysis with others who are also in this game on the same journey. Number four, after insights or enlightenment, keep going. And five, make sure you're seeking a personally meaningful goal that is intelligible, that is understandable and rational, reflecting the logos, and achieve that goal with excellence and apply that process analogously to the logos and becoming a dialectician. And thankfully, if you're here with us, you are doing that because our goal is to master the reading of this text, which is an intelligible goal that we can master with excellence while learning the dialectic along the way. So, if you're lucky enough to have these sorts of people in your life, I envy you, and cherish them. Practice with them, your reading or your dream work. And back outside. So, hope you have fun. Hope you have some interesting dreams. I hope you're having fun remembering them and recording them and transcribing them. And just as we said, you got to open the book and give it a go. Hope you're opening the book and giving it a go at your dream dialectics. And even better if you've got another person. It's so much better if you've got another person, because, well, our problems are masked in our language and interpretation, and having another person playing the role as the dialectician, they can ask you the questions that you might be blocked from. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Thank you for joining me. There is a PDF copy of the text you can find below. You can join the Discord, and you can follow along on Twitch and join the chat and ask questions. You can buy me a coffee. There's a link below. I don't get any money for this. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.